and thank you for coming out to our 2012 Mobile Forum. We have two great panels for you to discuss kind of where we are with mobile devices and apps, and how the economy is going for those and problems and issues that other people have faced. Interestingly, the app economy now has almost 500,000 jobs attributed to it in the United States, which is up from 0 when they started counting in 2007.
So when I think about mobile, I think about things, and I think about devices, and I think about machines communicating to machines, machines communicating to people, and as well as phones and so forth. And so think about mobility far beyond what you have in your pocket today, and think about it in terms of ubiquity of devices being able to communicate.
I actually think that, between cloud and mobile, the technology has kind of advanced further than businesses' ability to figure out what they really want to do with it. And in the old days, we used to talk about when we just would automate manual processes without changing them, we were paving cow paths. And if we're not careful, all we're going to do is move those cow paths to the cloud. And I think it really gives us an opportunity to rethink fundamentally how the business does everything, how it goes to market, how it acquires customers, how it services those customers. And I agree with you. I think what well, we need check-in. Why? Because Foursquare was a really cool consumer app, so now everybody wants check-in in their app. And so anyway, I think we need to think a little more broadly and creatively than that.
In the same way developing countries skipped landlines, they're actually skipping PCs. So if you ask a doctor, there's some crazy statistic out there that as of the end of last year, 70-some-odd% of doctors had iPads. That 70% have iPads. If you ask doctors how many of them have PCs, it would probably be lower.
And us now coming in with all these devices in our home, we're coming in expecting the same kind of ease of use, the same kind of consumer-friendly experience. And the enterprise has been designed to kind of hold the data close as opposed to push the data and the power back out to the user. And so in a lot of ways, in the same way that you had to rethink commerce when the internet came about, you have to rethink the user experience. And this is really all about that end user and really quick, easy access to data. And those skills, quite frankly, over the course of the past 10 years, we've spent most of the time, I'll be honest with you, in IT, outsourcing and building RFPs to outsource our data centers, our development, and so forth. And I think we have to, you do have to rely on some people that think upside down when it comes to these applications again with the enterprise.
If I were an investor, I'd be looking for those companies who have, been in the field, been doing lots of projects, getting lots of good market and customer feedback, and then saying, yeah, now I'm turning that into some really, high-value IP that we're going to try to productize.
4 years ago, I co-founded a mobile technology company that is now part of Movitas, and we set out to build a platform, a technology, and then eventually use that as a way to generate apps. So, the good news is, we have a platform, we're able to very cost-effectively roll out applications for our clients and scale. The bad news is it took us, $4 or $5 million to get there, right, to build that platform and to learn all the things that we needed to learn along the way, including, how do you integrate in the cloud, through a variety of enterprise back-end systems.
Carriers are still trying to figure out how to dominate and make money off of the deck, the old-fashioned deck that they thought about. And so I think that as the device dominates the network, so no one actually, back in the day you were on Verizon and if you wanted to go, you went to the Verizon App Store. Anyone who has a Verizon phone, most people aren't going to the Verizon App Store. So they don't, the gatekeepers, the carriers are becoming lesser in control, but at the same time they're going to they have to figure out ways to make some of those value-added services.
One of the reasons I love this space is I don't see a clear leader. I don't see a clear winner. So, adding a third element to the reasons to love this space, it's enormous, it's early, and there's no clear leader.
Most of the innovation in apps is frankly in the user experience design and the architecture and then what components you're going to leverage, right? And I think there's an opportunity in analytics to maybe create some very unique IP, but the app itself, and the code, if you will, I think most of the pick and shovel guys are trying to make it so that the app itself is just a representation of the user experience, and they make it easy to build that, right? So I think the IP is going to be in the picks and shovels.
We just talk about Microsoft, we talk about Google with Android, we talk about RIM with BlackBerry OS, we talk about Apple with iOS. It's become so competitive that the OS ecosystem owners are taking a real stake, probably more than we've seen in the past, in trying to create harmony inside their ecosystem. They want to discourage app developers from creating too much trouble for other app developers. They want to try to protect their ecosystem from outside attacks, particularly from other ecosystems. Well, not necessarily from our standpoint, but I think from any of the OS ecosystem owners. You will probably see, even moving forward, a greater protectionism around it. And that's not a protectionism from excluding. It's a protectionism to make sure that people can use the ecosystem for what they want to use it for.
But if you really start using applications that take advantage of the native capabilities of the phones, it's actually one of the downsides of HTML5 now, is really getting the native communication with the phone. All of that is done much more efficiently with native code. And we're working on hybridizing and making some things, HTML5 and native where necessary, but I haven't had great results with something that really was utilizing the native capabilities of the phone yet.
Are we really headed in the direction of device convergence, or are these variety of additional things we're doing, services we're adding, are we going to see a proliferation of additional devices for the consumer? And Scott, you're smiling.
It's like deja vu, right? When we had the network appliance, right? When we would, back in the old days, or back to VAX, right? So here we go again. Is it the dumb device and the data's anywhere we need it? And I think ultimately, and Scott, you guys would probably both reinforce it, it's going to be a combination because of the innovation still happening at the device level and some of the really cool stuff like NFC, like Zigbee, like all these other things that we're adding into the device level. I think as long as that innovation keeps going, you're going to want to create things that can take advantage locally of the device's computational power and storage, as well as the cloud. And so I think we're going to want both. So the good news is the computation in our hand is going up. Unfortunately, battery power is only increasing 12% a year. Meanwhile, Moore's law is a lot faster than that.
It's interesting. We heard about web analytics and big data. We heard about Facebook single sign-ons. We talked about 20 data points that they can gather from a phone. You couple that with your likes. You couple that with, it's not just your PC anymore. It knows exactly where you are, and I mean exactly where you are. It knows exactly what you like. Now you used it to pay for something. Now it knows what you actually bought. Well, when you start talking about combining all of these, and it's not in an anonymous way, it is extremely personalized, or at least the capability to do it extremely personalized is there. I don't know how many people here, just show of hands, how many people would be comfortable with Google collecting that kind of information on you? Knowing that you went into Burger King, you bought this, and by the way, you like this, this, and this.
We pride ourselves on intimacy and customer relationships. That's how we sell, right? This technology is going to basically disintermediate us. And I would point to the example of Nordstrom's, right? So Nordstrom's is known as the most intimate retailer in the world. They're now deploying iPads in their stores, so instead of when you say I need a pair of socks and the Nordstrom's rep brings back 12 pairs of socks of different textures and colors, they can now sit and browse with you on the iPad, and I'll bring out 3 pairs of socks. So you still get the same intimacy, but it's with efficiency.
A lot of people that could never afford an internet connection or a computer, that this is now their computing platform. And then you have people that missed out on the generation of having a personal computer that are now using tablets and these phones to communicate. It's this interesting sector that's kind of the edges. I think it was alluded to, there's middle where we all grew up with computers and now we're using these, but the market is massive, and in these endpoints, that's really where I've seen so far the convergence.